Have you ever made a decision, big or small, and told yourself, I'll just take care of it, only to realize later it brought stress, financial strain, or tension into your marriage? And then you wonder, why didn't I just ask? Why didn't I slow down? Why didn't I invite someone else in? Today at the Well, we're talking about the unspoken pressure many women carry, the feeling that we must do something, decide quickly, prove we're capable, or hold it all together on our own, and how that mindset quietly leads to overwhelm, financial burden, and disconnection. Welcome to Come to the Well. I am your host, Colleen, founder of Sustain Well, where we come to the well as women who are maybe broken, needing to healing from something. And we hope that you find comfort here, healing in the discussion, and some open dialogue. And hopefully you find something that resonates with you and you can join us each week to learn something at the well. Well, a lot of us are in survival mode. Many women learned that at an early age. If I don't handle it, no one else will. That was something that I learned at an early age when I was trying to be in a group and I wanted the catering event to go a certain way. I wanted the coffee set up, and I probably learned it from my mom. She always wanted things done a certain way. And when you kept on asking people in the group, I said, yes, I'm going to show up, and they don't. So oftentimes I felt, you know what? I'm tired of asking these women. I'm going to do it myself, only to feel burnt out, unhappy, and disappointed yet again. Does that sound like you? Absolutely. It might be something that you carry all the time as well. So let's talk a little bit about why we carry these burdens. We carry these burdens because we want to succeed in life. We want to feel accepted. We want to actually look at things and we want to be empowered. We want to actually have an empowerment situation where we can make things happen. Not all the time can we make it happen, especially when we try to control everything in the group. We get burnout, we get frustrated, and that's not something that we want to happen at all. And it's human, it's human to have these kind of survival mode, depending on others, always seem for me to lead to disappointment. And you'd feel like you were left with the cat in the bag. Sometimes independence praised more than interdependence. Sometimes you're praised for being the independent woman and that, oh, wow, you did everything. Oh my gosh, you're so skilled at that. Wow, I couldn't do it like you. I've heard that plenty of times. You just do it the best. Keep doing it. And a lot of times, strong women feel they don't need help. But the reality is, a strong woman needs to connect with someone else and be vulnerable enough to ask for help and find that worker bee that's willing to connect with that strong woman who's willing to make the event or to make things happen to lessen the burden on us women. It's not a sin to be human all the time. When you try to do everything, you think that it's sinful to ask for help. And that by no means is the case. Or we come from the place of fear and not pride. We're afraid that people will see us as weak or that we don't have it all together. And it's okay because, ladies, none of us is perfect. We all have times in our life where we need to be lifted up, pulled up, told we're good enough, given a hug. And that is what most of us need. And we have to be open and honest and say, to a friend, how can I help you today? Not how are you? Because most people are going to skirt that issue and they're going to say they're fine. You want to dig to that deeper root meaning of what does fine mean. Most of the time you can say, hey, can I give you a hug? And they usually mean, oh yeah, you can give me a hug. I'm dealing with something. Doing something feels safer than waiting. Deciding alone feels faster than having a conversation. And isn't that the truth? It's easier to just do it than having a 10-minute conversation about how to do it, how to do the napkins. But also, sometimes you just need to take a little gulp and you need to teach that person how to do it the way you want to do it. It's communicating. And a lot of times, ladies, we're not good at that. Can you relate? We're not good at letting someone know that, hey, why don't you try it this way? Oh, you know what? I love the way you did it, but can I show you a simpler way to fold those napkins so you don't offend everybody? That is so, so important. Let's jump to, especially this time of year, making purchases without discussing that purchase with your husband, your friend. A lot of times I used to feel guilty when my sister-in-law would buy me a gift that was way over what I bought her. But then you have to realize that that person's love language might be giving gifts. And that means that if you say, hey, that was too much, they might be offended. So you have to kind of realize who the person is at the gift giving. But you also have to be realistic about the budget that you're going to spend on people or the budget that you set for the Christmas season or for birthdays. So you're not put into a place where you're asked, well, why don't we have that extra $100 that I thought we'd have in the budget? Why use that for something? Or feeling guilt and shame that you overspent when you could have had the discussion and explained, well, I'm going to spend a little bit more money on one of the kids because they want this certain ski equipment. It runs a little bit more, and I'm going to give the other child something else. And then you can have that honest conversation of what the budget actually looks like. Because if we don't do that, we can be silenced, feel guilty, and we could be at odds with our spouse and feeling angry and upset and feeling like, oh God, again, I have to fix it. It's my problem. I'll do something about it. And then the spouse feels like they upset you. And if you had the honest conversation in the beginning, it would have worked out. A lot of us make choices and decisions and we avoid the money conversation because it feels so uncomfortable. We decide that, oh, I'm just going to spend, I'll worry about it later. It's the holidays. My job's going to give me a bonus. I'll work that out. Or, oh, I'm going to be able to get some extra jobs and I'll make up the difference. Has that actually worked for you? I know for me, when I think in that kind of mindset, is usually the jobs don't come to fruition. The loss of something comes up. I don't get the bonus or I get less or something happens when I should have just had the dialogue of, how much do we want to spend on everybody this year and set that limit. And then we don't have to feel uncomfortable or guilty because we overspent. Money is the root to an emotional episode, or there's a lot of emotion tied in with the money conversation, especially when two people are working and their expectation of how the money should be spent or how that person was raised. Sometimes people were raised where they had a job where they can work and money was always abundant. Some people come from the place where money was very scarce and they had to be very frugal with their money, and they don't understand why the partner is so loosey-goosey with the money. And it produces a lot of anxiety, the feeling of being productive, the feeling of I have to control. I can't let that person take away from what's mine. There's some real possession in money and what I make. And if you had the consequence or you had the conversation about money and about how you wanted to spend the money, you wouldn't feel the guilt and the shame, and you wouldn't feel the secrecy and the mistrust in a marriage. And I've often learned the hard way. It's so hard to have those conversations. But what's more difficult and what I'm realizing more so now is the not having the conversation causes the riff or I call it my nail in the coffin. I call it, okay, you discern with God that you have desire and you want to. You're so excited. You found the present for your son and he's really going to love it, but it's a couple $100 or maybe more than what you wanted to spend. And you're like, you know what? It's only going to be here for a short time. I need to get it. I don't have time to call my husband. I'm just going to buy it. And then you're skirting around the topic and he somehow, found out that you spent that kind of money that you didn't have, that was going to take away from something that you and he could do. And he lays into you. He gets very upset. He gets angry for all well and good, but you're excited. You want to give this awesome gift, or you desire to take a class and it's more money that you have in the budget, and they find out. Then the conversation comes up, well, so how much money did you spend on that class or that gift? And you're like, well, only a couple $100. And he's like, come on, really, what did you spend? And you pull out the amount of dollars it was spent and they blow up at you and you get very defensive, you get very angry, and that person shuts down and doesn't talk to you for a day or two. Your emotions and your anxiety, you can't sleep. And you would have prevented this if you would have had the hard conversation. And these are lessons that we learn because we all make choices. Whether it's good or bad, ladies, we want to learn at the well that, okay, we have a support system that's going to lift us up when we do something that is silly or stupid, that we can talk through and say, okay, I really need to talk to my partner and talk to him about my overspending. And we have to be aware of those habits. The time of year when we have habits of overeating, overexercise, overspending, where we have the guilt and the shame. Once we are aware that these things are coming up, these patterns of behavior, it helps us then make better choices. Not that we're going to be perfect and do it better, but we're aware of, I'm starting down this path, and you can be better prepared and better aware of those conversations. Now, I'm not saying anybody that this is an easy thing to change or to do, but I want you ladies to hear my heart and say, let's be aware of patterns of behavior during certain seasons or certain times a year. And when we don't ask for help, we often pay twice, once financially and once relationally. And that's what I'm really trying to say is you have the financial burden, and then your relationship is severed because you didn't have the full conversation. And I know there's some anxiety to have the conversation, but what I try to do and I try to teach women to do is to dialogue with yourself about how the conversation is going to go. It's called storyboarding. Then work backwards, talk to it on your voice memos, and really listen and sit with us. Then you're more able to already prepare for all of the objections that your partner or your spouse is going to have. It's going to make you feel a little bit better, and you're going to have the less guilt and the shame in the long run. And I know this might sound really hard for you, but I want you to just think about it and be more aware. In Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, it says, turn in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. Actually, ladies, it's trust in the Lord. Do we trust in him enough and take some quiet time to listen and really dive deep into what do you want to trust him in? Do you want him to trust that your spouse will understand? while you're spending the money. You have to trust that when you ask him, he will come to you and emotionally give you some feedback. Maybe you get a little anxious, maybe you get a little worried, maybe you get tired. Be aware of what's on your heart when you trust. And then the same is when you're feeling the guilt and the shame and when you don't trust. In Genesis 2:18, it is not good for a man to be alone. This is about design, not on dependency. In Genesis, the man was alone and it was not good. So God created Eve, a partner. So, ladies, our partners were divinely given to us by God. And ladies, I'm telling you, you have to pray for your spouse, pray over them when you sleep. And then the next day, it usually feels a little bit better. God did not design women to carry life alone, spiritually, emotionally, or financially. We are meant to carry these burdens with someone else. And it's sometimes that person is a good trusted friend. They kind of help you get off that tightrope. Honestly, it's getting us through those emotions and it helps us. It's not weak to ask for help. Is it not losing autonomy? Is it an act of humility and trust? Let's ask ourselves these questions. Let's tenderly address our spouse in this way. Sometimes we think and we're afraid of the conflict. Conflict is so difficult to be conflicted in conversation, and everybody wants to be loved and cared for. Whether it's male or female, we all want to trust and love one another. This is a good one, ladies. Are we fearful of being told no? And that's a big one. I had to look back and really pray about when was the first time I was told no? Did I like it? And what did I learn from it? Did I have a temper tantrum? Probably. Did I see my mom having these temper tantrums and not dealing with no well? And that's something that I need to be aware of. If I don't understand and look back at to the reason why no really bothers me, and why I don't like to be told no and why I want to control the situation, then how am I going to learn from that? Because if we're told no, then is it productive and do we do secretive things just to get a yes? Ladies, I got to tell you, that's what I was doing. And I have to be honest and say, I really have to look at when was the season of no and how can I heal from that no so it can be more of a positive outcome and realize that no does not mean not now. It's a temporary no, not right in this season. And it's a no to protect us. And that's a lot of times where I personally forget. Is there fear of judgment? Are you going to be judged because of something that you did? Maybe. Past experiences where voices weren't honored. We have to look at those past experiences and look at them in the light of where was I not honored and where was God in that situation so he could reveal to us what it is that he wants us to learn from those past experiences. That's the only way, ladies, we're going to grow. It's a hard place to sit down and ask those questions. Was my mom's reaction just, oh, it's okay, passed it off? And I was really disappointed and not honored in that situation. But what God has spoken to me is that he was there giving me that hug and saying, it's going to be okay. Your bunny is beautiful. So I want you to take time at the well to really probe into those situations, those past experiences that we don't sit with long enough to find out what was the message that God wanted to share with us. Sometimes we don't avoid asking because we don't value our spouse. We avoid asking because we don't trust the outcome. That's kind of heavy today. We don't trust the outcome. I wanted to control the outcome. I wanted to give the person a nice gift. I wanted to spend a little extra money. I wanted my spouse to be happy. Instead, he was disappointed that I overspent. And then I feel guilt and shame because I didn't trust the outcome that I was able to get that gift. And sometimes it's not really about, the money that our spouse doesn't want us to overspend. It's really about that you did something without permission, that you did something without a conversation. And how many times do our kids do that to us? They do something and they didn't ask. And if you only knew what was going on, you would be better prepared for the outcome. No one wants to get the call from someone's parent to say, oh, your kid's here and he did X, Y, and Z and he's been a bad boy or a bad girl. And then you're trying to justify where you were feeling judged by the other parent. But if you used to know that your child was going over that house and that mom wasn't going to be there or was going to be there, that you could deflect some of those questions. So we need to work on better communication. And when we have better communication, we'll have better tools to heal those old wounds. And really, some old wounds tend to open up this time of year, and that's okay. But we have to be aware of how we're managing those wounds, because wounds come up in inopportune times and spaces because maybe we didn't learn how to manage it at the time. And we weren't truly healed from that. So we have to reframe things with our partner as a partnership, not asking for permission, but asking for good, solid communication and love. Instead of I need to handle it myself, we need to try who is God inviting me to bring into this decision. Ladies, the decision doesn't not have to be all alone. There's so many places that God is gently touching our heart and saying, ask this one, ask that one. We just have to be quiet enough and silent enough to be open to invite him in. What would peace look like instead of urgency? Wow, peace would definitely give me freedom. Instead of, I have to do this now. I have to get that Tony's for my granddaughter because it's going to be gone. Well, the reality is once it's gone, they probably get more into the shop. You just need to ask the right question to the sales clerk. When might you be getting more of these in? Ma'am, I could put you on the wait list and it should be here tomorrow. And once it comes in, I'll give you a call. We have to be waitful and mindful and slow down the urgency and said, is this really urgent? Is this really necessary? Is the world going to come to an end if my granddaughter doesn't have a Tony? Probably not. Am I acting from fear or from faith? Now that's a good one. We need to act from the place of faith, not being afraid that something's going to happen to us. Be aware of that, ladies. This is something that I'm not good at, that I'm hoping at the well today we can continue the dialogue and have the conversation, but pause for prayer. Pause and ask God, do I really need that? And I got to say, today I did that. I was at the store and I wanted to go into Old Navy because I thought I needed a pair of red velvet pants. I've always wanted red velvet pants or a pair of velvet pants to go with a lovely holiday sweater. And I thought, do I actually need to purchase these holiday pants? I want them, but do I need them? I have so many other things in my closet. And is it going to make a big deal at the Christmas dinner or the Christmas Eve celebration if I have velvet red pants? No. So you know what? I didn't walk into Old Navy, so I'm so proud of myself there. But I did have that dialogue with, myself and with God. It might not have been a prayer, but I stopped and paused. Ask who should be included. That's a hard one. Because as women, we want to have our own destiny. We want to have control of our own money, especially in today's age. Even when you have a partner, you're like, well, I make money. I should be able to make these decisions. But remember, Mary and Joseph were partners. They worked together in every situation. And our union is divine by God, and we need to, no matter how hard it is or how difficult the conversation is, we need to bring Mary and Joseph into that. And we really need to realize that God is in that marriage and in those difficult situations helping you. These conversations aren't easy, and even if it's uncomfortable, but it'll help you both grow. It'll help you be a better person. That's why I inspire everybody at the well to come to this place where we take the bucket down to be filled and to really sit, take some time, 15, 20 minutes to sit with me, to think about different situations and different perspectives. And hopefully in this conversation, you've grown, you've learned to pause. So this week, I want to invite you to notice where you feel the urge to rush, fix, or decide alone. Bring the place to prayer. And if you're married, open one small conversation you've been avoiding, not to ask for permission, but to invite partnership. Because help is holy, and you were never meant to do this alone. Thank you for coming to the well today. Wherever you feel pressure to carry more than your share, may the Lord meet you there and rest, wisdom, and the courage to ask. Thanks for coming to the well. If this episode struck a nerve, hit a heart sense, please share it with a friend. Like us on Sustainawell. And if you want to dialogue about further discussion of how you can be mentored, I'm starting my God Body Principle, where we work with mind, body, and soul, where I help heal and have great discussions so you can transform your hearts, ladies. Looking forward to seeing you next time at the well.